There is a small community called Church Rock that's a few miles outside of Gallup, New Mexico. Most of the people that lived here have had the land passed down many generations. This is where our story begins. 2 generations ago. There was a woman who was infatuated with a man in her community. She requested that the man build her a home. In exchange, she would give her daughter to the man to serve as his maid. The woman thought that, as the man worked on her home, she could woo him in the process. The deal was sealed, and the man built the woman a house. The man collected his payment, but instead of having the daughter as a maid, he married her. The mother became enraged with jealousy and ran the newly married couple out of the community. The couple relocated to Rama and started a new life. They had 6 children, 2 of which were twin girls. In the Navajo tradition, twins are seen as very powerful. In the mythology of Navajos, the children of the sun were twins, and so they are held in very high regard. This is the story from one of those twin girls. The family began construction on a new home. While they were building the house, the children would play outside as the adults worked. As they were playing, the older twin noticed an animal emerge from the woods. It was a coyote. Usually, coyotes were very skittish and avoided human contact at any cost. The coyote made its way closer to the girl. A strange smell filled the air like something dead. The coyote came right up to her. She said the coyote didn't bite her, but instead put its mouth over her mouth and began to suck the breath from her. It was at this point that she lost consciousness. One of the adults that was working on the house saw what was happening, and everyone rushed toward the coyote and the girl. The adults yelled and shouted as they ran towards them. The coyote darted back into the woods, and the girl fell to the ground. She was blue. The family worked fast and were able to resuscitate her. The incident resulted in the family going to see a medicine man. He told them that it was the grandmother, still harboring jealous feelings towards her own daughter and her family. They had a prayer done, and it was thought to be the end of it. Later, the family received news that the grandmother had died. As the years passed, construction on the home continued, and the twin girls continued to grow. The family had built their home and moved in. The twin sisters shared a bedroom and slept together on a king-size bed. It was a hot summer night, and the family kept all of the windows open to keep the rooms cold during the night. One night, the older twin arose to use the restroom. The family kept a small light on in the hallway. She got out of bed, walked down the hallway, and did her business. As she was covering herself, she happened to look up. She froze in horror. There, at the open window, was a coyote. The window was pretty high, and so the coyote had to have been standing on its rear legs. The girl was frozen with fear and made complete eye contact with the coyote. It was then that she noticed the same smell, the smell of death. She snapped and ran out of the room, screaming and crying. She ran to her parents' room and got her father. He ran into the bedroom, half expecting to be fighting off his daughter's imagination, but the strong smell hit him, and there was the coyote still standing at the window. The father yelled and ran to get his rifle. The man ran out of the home, but the coyote was gone. The family tried to comfort the little girl, but she sobbed until morning. Again, the family sought out a medicine man. He explained to the family that the hatred that the grandmother had for the family was so strong that the ill intention she had for the couple and their family proceeded even after the grandmother's death. When the family was blessed with twins, the grandmother knew of the strength it would bring to the family, and she wanted to get rid of one of them. The older twin recalls these events vividly and swears that the coyote that attempted to suffocate her and the one at her window were one and the same. Even the scent of death was familiar the second time she encountered the creature. She hasn't seen it since that night and is very grateful for that. So, I've been contemplating putting this on here for a couple of years now. Only my family and close friends know my story, and I wanted to explain it fully without someone belittling my experience with the TLDR crap thinking they're funny. I've already posted this in Aliens and was advised to put it here, so if you've already read this, then I apologize. It was 1997. I was 28, and my then boyfriend and I lived in a remote village in Lincolnshire, England. He had a job where he worked from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and I was working in a bar, so I could take him to and from work so I could get myself to work with the one car we shared. It's probably worth mentioning that the car was brand new. It had something crazy like 18 miles on the clock when we got it. I wanted something newer than the car we had before because I didn't like the idea of being stranded down a dark country lane if the old car decided to shit itself when I was driving alone. I don't know how many people know Lincolnshire, but most of it's rural with thin, winding roads, and this place is so flat you can see for miles. I used to drive to pick my ex up, and the views in spring when the mornings were getting lighter was, and still are, breathtaking. So imagine farmers' fields all around you with a basic little road snaking along the edges. The fields themselves were separated in rows by not quite saplings, but trees that would be a couple years old, still thin and gangly, and at this particular time of year they were just starting to show hints of new leaves on their skinny branches. An absolutely beautiful drive in the lighter mornings. Mainly because I was usually the only person on the road, so I could drive as slow as I liked to watch the sun coming up over the horizon. Okay, so I hope I've described this place enough to paint an image. Here's where the story starts. So one morning I was driving along the little road. It was about 5:30 a.m. and the sun was just peeking out over the horizon, and the sky was completely cloudless. I slowed down to watch it, as I often did, not paying much attention to the trees as they were in a row that ran down the side of the field, so they were never in the way of the view. In my peripheral, I thought I saw something move amongst the skinny trees, so I stopped the car completely, thinking it might be a deer or something interesting like that. I waited for a few seconds, and nothing happened. So I was just about to restart the car when I saw two of the trees walking out of the lineup. I say trees, but I don't have a clue what they actually were. Remember, this is a long time before the internet and the Slender Man and all the tales and superstitions, etc. I was literally frozen to the spot with fear. Two tall things walked out of the line of trees and started walking over to me. I was about 50, 60 yards away from them, and the only thing I could describe them as were oversized stick insects. They had two long legs and two long arms that almost touched the ground. And I'd say the tallest one must have been easily 12 feet tall. The smaller one, maybe 10? They walked in a fluid motion, as if they were wading through treacle, like long hair would glide through water. It was just slow and graceful. When my brain finally kicked into flight mode, I started my car and glanced over to see how close they had gotten. All the while, I was putting my car into gear and started it moving. The tallest one slowly lifted his arm up, like a silk scarf gliding through light wind, and pointed it at me. My car instantly stalled. The dashboard warning lights were all on. All of them lit up, and at the same time, I got the worst pain in my face. Mainly my jaw, but it made me scream out in agony, and I almost blacked out. With the pain debilitating me, I knew I needed to get away, fast. I was so terrified that the car wouldn't start again, because all the lights were still on. So I turned the engine entirely off, and thankfully it started again. And I drove like a mad woman to get out of sight. All the time, my face and jaw was burning. And when I got to my ex's work, he gave me a bottle of water to cool me down, but it didn't do much to help. And for weeks, my mouth felt like I had chewed on poison ivy, my jaw feeling like I had an abscess under each molar. I needed to see a dentist, and I knew that. But explaining what happened would have made me feel stupid, so I put it off. I had 3 amalgam fillings, all in my lower molars. And once the worst of the pain had gone, a couple of months later, I couldn't put anything metal in my mouth without getting a shock, like licking a battery shock. So I was eating with plastic cutlery all the time, and decided to give in and see if the dentist would change the fillings to ceramic ones. The dentist looked in my mouth and asked what happened to my teeth. I played it off casually and asked why. My fillings looked like little balls of mercury. So I explained the car ride, etc., and he said that my fillings looked like they'd been melted and pooled into smooth, rounded metal balls. Every word of this is true. I don't mind banter or questions, but please don't be mean. It's taken a lot for me to tell my story to you all. Thanks. I grew up in a rural part of Maryland, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone within 10 square miles, and it took 30 minutes to get to the nearest department store. Our house was positioned between a cornfield and a forest. The road leading to my house was about 6 miles long, and the only people who ever drove down it were the handful of people who lived back there, and the occasional archaeological van that would do digs in the plot next to our house when the farmers would turn the fields over. We had a few paranormal experiences in the house. I'll briefly mention a few of those before telling you the story behind the title of this post. One day, I was in my room upstairs, playing piano, and I heard a loud bang on the wall outside my room. My parents said something like, "What the hell was that?" And when I walked out of the room to ask them the same thing, my piano started playing the pre-installed demo songs completely unprompted. It freaked us all out enough that we called my brother, who was in college at the time, to tell him about it. And years later, he let us know that when we called him that night, he heard a deep laugh in the background of the phone call and was too afraid to tell us at the time. Another odd occurrence was when I was sitting in the sunroom and watched my brother walking through the front yard toward the door. I turned and looked into the living room, only to see my actual brother sitting on the couch wearing a different shirt than the doppelganger that walked by the window. My parents would also hear me talking in the house pretty frequently when they knew I wasn't home. Anyways, in the 8th grade, I had this witch experience that I haven't been able to shake, and I had other people with me. My friend's dad was driving me home in his 3-seater truck. We got to the stretch of road where we could see my house across the field. They planted soybeans that year, so the corn wasn't blocking our view. And in the ditch right by the road was a figure I can only describe as a witch. We all saw her. We drove right past her. The ditch lining the road was about 2 feet deep and somewhat overgrown, and we could only see the upper half of her body, as if she were sitting cross-legged in the ditch. She was wearing an off-white nightgown that was stained brown, and her hair was black and tangled. She was looking up into the sky with her arms extended toward the sky, and she was rocking in a circular motion. I know it sounds fucking ridiculous, but all 3 of us were totally uncomfortable. My friend's dad was rough around the edges carpenter, no bullshit kind of guy. I remember really feeling scared when he asked us, "What the hell was that?" She didn't look like a homeless person or a drug addict, and we were so far from any town, we literally never had a single person in the 20 years I lived there wander into our area who didn't belong there. She legit looked like she came from another time period and was sitting in our ditch trying to summon a fucking tornado. When we got home, my friend's dad walked us inside, which he didn't normally do because my parents didn't socialize with my friend's parents. He came in almost as if he wanted to kill time to not drive back by her again. He told my parents what we had seen, and we couldn't see her from our house, so we called the police just in case it was someone in need of psychiatric help. My friend's dad left after a couple of minutes, and the police came about 20 minutes later and said they didn't see anyone in the ditch and couldn't find that anyone was walking in the fields or roads in the surrounding area. My friend's dad called us once they got home and said that by the time they drove by the spot on their way home, she was gone. I truly cannot explain it. My friend's dad has since passed away, but my friends say they still talked about it every now and then in the years following.